Welcome, everyone. Perfect. Yeah, so this session will be recorded. This is the LLMP training session. And once again, if for those who don't know me, I'm pretty sure I've seen or chatted with everybody here in the room already, but my name is Khadija Hamidou. I'm the Executive Director at Workforce Planning Hamilton, and welcome to the LLMP training session. So you all might have gotten an indication by the ministry that we have been adding in additional indicators for the LLMP for this year. So we thought we would go through a nice little training session with you as the leaders of OneHub. We already do the data distribution for you all in all 26 local boards. So we thought we would add on an additional training for you just so that you can really wrap your heads around the additional indicators that are going to be happening. So the session will be recorded. It will be posted on our website as well. So if you do have any futuristic questions or you need a reference, definitely check out our website. It will be posted there, and feel free to send it over to anybody on your team that has any questions regarding the indicators for the LMP, because we know that's coming up soon. So it's best that we have this conversation now rather than later. So yes, and if you have any questions throughout the training opportunity, feel free to raise up your hand. It is in the reaction button at the bottom of your screen, or put your name in the chat, but we will also be having a Q&A session as well towards the end of the training. So with that being said, I would like to acknowledge that the city of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This is the history we know all so well. Today, the city of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers in hopes of our ongoing commitment to reconciliation now and in the future. We need to continue to protect the land we are occupying by respecting and giving more opportunities to communities that were here before us. With that being said, September 30th marks the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, so let's continue to spread awareness, educate our teams, and create more safe spaces for Indigenous communities all year long. Thank you. All right, so I will pass it over to the lovely Amy Zhang, and she will be going through today's training. Amy?
Thank you. So hi everyone, so my name is Amy. So if you guys don't know me, I'm the researcher here at Workforce Planning Hamilton, and I'll be going through the training session for today. So what can you expect from today's training session? So first we'll go through the changes. So overview of changes from 2022 compared to 2023 for the LMP indicators. Also go through a quick run through of OneHub, which is a shared workspace, which kind of source our data sources and kind of see what's on OneHub. Next, we'll focus on the meat of the training session, which will go through the indicators. So we'll be going through the 7 new indicators one by one, and where you can source the data from as well. And at the end, we'll have a session for any for any questions, as well as for a general discussion. So with that being said, we'll go straight to the overview of changes. So we can see here the indicators for 2022 on the top compared to the indicators for 2023 on the bottom. So I won't go through all of them as they're quite, I would say, quite a lot of indicators, but feel free just to kind of just peruse them, get a general idea of the indicators that we have. And I'll read through the 2023 indicators for everyone here. So for 2023, the first indicator asks us the total number of employers and distribution by firm size range, as well as by industry, so NAICS 2. So the second indicator asks us to look at the total employment and distribution by industry, so NAICS 2, as well as by occupation, so NOx 1 over the past 5 years. 3, so the total population 15 years and over, and distribution by age, group, gender, racialized, indigenous identity, as well as newcomers over the past 5 years. Migration characteristics by age group, total labor force by highest level of educational attainment over the past 5 years. Top 25 occupations by 4-digit NOx by number of regional job postings, as well as corresponding wages. And 7.1 and 7.2, which look at median income and wages. So Next, moving swiftly along to the main changes. So kind of main changes for the new indicators for this year are the Canadian Business Count. So the new indicator requirements ask us to now analyze the Canadian Business Count's data by 2-digit NAICS as opposed to 3-digit. As well as for the population indicator, which now asks us to analyze specific population categories to categories which include the BIPOC population, age, gender, and so forth. For third, the education indicator. So the new requirements now ask us to look at the total labor force by highest educational attainment. So we kind of go back to the slide, we kind of see that for 2022, the educational attainment was only asked for the total population or for the local population. So the main change being that now we're looking at total labor force. And so there's a new indicator added for this year, which looks at job demand. So the new indicator asks us to look at job demand via job postings data. I know a lot of local boards already include this in their labor market plans. I know we included it in our labor market plan last year. So just want to point these four out as the main changes. But yeah. So next we'll go through a quick run through of OneHub. So the data that we use in our local labor market plans or LLMPs comes primarily from OneHub. So if you guys are unfamiliar with OneHub, it's used as a shared workspace and holds all the data for the local boards. And the data that's available on OneHub includes the census data as well as national household survey data, Employment Ontario data, the Canadian Business Counts data, and migration data. So we're just going to quickly exit out of the presentation and go through OneHub, kind of see what's on there and what we'll be using for our presentation today. I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. As I cannot see my tabs. There we go. Now I'll share my screen again. And let me know if I'm going too fast. Feel free to stop me anytime. But yeah. So this is what OneHub looks like. So this is kind of the workspace, the general outline, or I guess template, whatever you want to call it. So for us, we're going to be mainly using the Census and National Household Survey data. So access through here. And for the indicators this year, we'll primarily be going through the 2021 Census of Population, the 2016 census as well. So if you click on either of these, we are then welcomed with subfolders by geography. So as everyone might know, so there's different geographies attached to each region or each local board. So there's the census division as well as economic region, census subdivision, local boards, as well as Ontario. And there's also
Amy, could you slow down a bit, please? You're really flying through stuff. It's almost slurring. It's very hard to hear you talking. So because it's going so fast, if you don't mind just slowing down a tad,
yeah, absolutely.
We'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, no worries. So yeah, so 2021 Census of Population. So it's then categorized by subfolders and which include census division, economic region, census subdivision, local boards, Ontario. And then there's also the table of specifications and variable specifications. If you're looking for a specific table or for a specific variable that you want to pull from. And next we'll go back to our presentation. So we'll jump right into the indicators. So first, starting off with indicator 1, total number of employers and distribution by firm size, range, and industry, so NAICS 2. And for this, I'm just going to quickly exit out of my presentation and go through my working Excel sheet. So before we get started, I did send over this document or this Excel worksheet, which kind of outlines the data sources we'll be using for this training session. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list, but this is what I'll be using for today. So looking at indicator 1, we can see that we're going to be using the Canadian Business Counts data for December 2022, which is sourced from OneHub, and we'll be using the census division level with 2-digit and 3-digit NAICS as well. So going to my working Excel sheet. So this is kind of the table I have for indicator 1. Of course, there's different ways to do your analyses, but for the purposes of this training session, this is what I'll be using. So looking at the table, I have it. So I'll be using Ottawa as my example region for today. So census division Ottawa, and then the table I have it for employee size range. And for employee size range, I have without employees, micro, so 1 to 4, small 5 to 99, medium 100 to 499, as well as large employers. I have it by 2-digit industries on this side as well. So all the way from agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting to public administration. So the way I kind of did this was I sourced it from the OneHub data. So on OneHub, there's data for each local region, and from this, there's a table which has the 3-digit NAICS by employee size range that we see here. And then on the side, there's also a separate table which looks at 2-digit industries by employee size range as well. So all I did was I copy and pasted this table, placed it into my working Excel sheet over here, as you can see. And then for without employees, I just copy and paste it from here. And then for micro employees, again, just copy and paste. And for small and medium, just it's a little different for analysis, as they ask for 5 to 99 employees. So all you have to do is just add these rows up for each industry to get the sum, and you'll get the small category. And similarly for medium, so they ask for 100 and 499 employees, and all you have to do is just add up these two to get the total. And for large, it's just the same. So with that, and that's kind of what I did for indicator 1. Of course, there's multiple ways to go about this. If you're looking at specific industries, or if you're looking at other services versus goods industries, you can also do a high-level analysis of that. But this is just as an example. But yeah. So if there's any questions, feel free to raise your hand or to just yell out your question. That's all good as well.
Amy, there's a question in the chat for you.
For sure.
Could you share the section that outlines the specific tables used on OneHub, or will this be shared on your website?
So let's visit. So the tables here. So if you're referring to this, I sent this over yesterday in an email, but this will also be posted on our website as well. So no worries on that front. Yep. While I see your hand, go ahead.
Yeah, just to clarify, Amy, so have you done these calculations for all boards and you've put it on OneHub, or that's for us to do?
So no, so this is just a demonstration worksheet. So everyone will be doing their own indicators, but again, if you need help, I'm more than happy to help with any of their indicator needs. I hope that clears it up.
So you've purchased the 2- and 3-digit data as you have in the past, and the ministry requires us to use the 2-digit data, and I think it's up to each individual board to decide if there's value using the 3-digit data. That's the way I see it. So,
yes. So if you're referring to the Canadian Business Council, for that, these are all posted on OneHub for each local region, and include both the 3-digit and 2-digit data.
okay.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you for the question. Yep. Alrighty, so if there are no more questions, I'll move on to indicator 2. So for indicator 2, it asks us the total employment and distribution by industry by NAICS 2 and by occupation, so NOx 1, over the past 5 years. If we refer back to our kind of data sources guidelines, so for indicator 2, it's kind of it's a little bit more complex. So looking at the NOx first, so for indicator 2, we're going to be using the indicator2.ibt file for the 2021 data, and this is available on OneHub here. It's available on OneHub, and yeah. So for this, so I'll go through kind of the outline and what the red highlighted kind of means. So for indicator 2.ibt for 2021 data, so for this table, we're primarily going to be using the NOx data, so the NOx variable, so occupation, national occupational classification, 2016. So anything that's highlighted red is what we're going to be pulling from the specific table. And similarly for table 19, place of residence for the 2016 data, which is available on the 2016 census in OneHub. And similarly, we're going to be pulling data specifically for NOx code 2016. And for NAICS, so there's a couple of different ways you can go about analyzing your the NAICS or the industries. So one way is to do it through Census Canada. So they have a table which looks at the data at CMA level geography. and which is what I'll be using for today. So yeah. So going through indicator 2. So these are the tables I have for indicator 2. One is for the NOx and below is for the NAICS. Yep. Oh, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, excuse me. Sorry, I have a few questions
Yeah,
here,
for sure.
and just so the ministry requires us to look at employment by these broad occupation groups. So we're trying to do that, but the occupation classification changed in 2021. So everybody tells me, oh, it's the 0 category that's changed the most. And the others aren't affected, but in fact, they're all affected by this
Yes, for sure.
change.
Yeah. I can kind of clear that.
Long,
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm doing this I'm doing the 4-county LLMP. I don't see how I can analyze this over time. We're not comparing apples to apples. The occupation
So
classification
I
has
can
changed.
hopefully clear that up for you. So the ministry did reach out, and we got a new table which is now available on OneHub. So it's called indicator2.IBT. And this indicator basically recodes the 2021 classifications or the NOC codes down to 2016. So we have a fair comparison between 2021 and 2016.
Where did you get that from?
So it was sent over by the ministry. And I did send out an email, I think a few weeks ago, explaining that the data is now available on OneHub too. So hopefully that clears up any confusion around that.
I still don't see how it's possible, given that these, and again, this isn't our fault, given that the 0 legislative and senior management occupations changed so radically between the 2 time periods. So anyhow, I'll have to look at what they've sent you, but so
Sure, yeah.
I'm not questioning you. I'm just kind of questioning, is it possible?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question.
And sorry, the other, which table are you referring to? The custom table? What, like, table number, what does this come from?
So it's called indicator2.IBT. And
see, I didn't think there was occupation data in that table. I'll look again. Okay.
All right. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
I'm not sure how to raise my hand, so just
Yeah.
Sandy right here. So Amy, so I've done this, I've used your data that you've converted from, you took the 2021 NOC and you put it into the 2016 version of NOC. So I've done this analysis. It's fine. It works. You know, we can do the comparison like you're looking for. My only concern about this, and you know, we can conclude this chart, not a problem. But my concern is that now, one thing, you've done it by board area only. You haven't done it by any of the census divisions. And I know I'm responsible for pulling data together for 2 board areas. So we do it by the roll-up area, by the board area. And we also do it by census divisions. So the census divisions, all we're going to be putting in there is really just 2021 information. Where it becomes sort of confusing a little bit is that we also put other tables in that are not part of the indicators. We'll add tables such as what's the, you know, giving a 5-year projection through Lightcast or through whatever source other people use. So in those things, we're using 2021 version NOx when we do this. That's my only caution about this, is that because we're using the version of 2016, some of the occupational titles have changed. When you're doing a forecast on you know, where the increase in jobs, especially in the management areas, you're getting funny. If people really are into it and really look at the report thoroughly, it's confusing. I'm just concerned whether this is even my own honest opinion. We can do this, we can put it in, but do we need it? Like, for, you know, that's sort of my,
For sure, yeah.
That's my comment on that. We can all do it. You've given us the data. That's not a problem. I just look at the importance of it, honestly. That's
for sure, yeah.
my comments. That's it for that.
Thank you. And I would like to say that, unfortunately, I do not do any of the calculations of the conversion to 2021 or 2026 or 2016. All of that is done through Stats Canada for the ministry. So I do agree that a lot of this data can be more streamlined, but again, I believe that's more of a ministry kind of operating requirement side of things. But I definitely do agree, and thank you for the comment. Yeah, Paul, I see your hand up. Please go.
Yeah, and I agree with Sandy. And this obviously is Amy. This is the ministry requesting this, but us old researchers think how valuable is number 2? Not valuable at all. Similar to number 7, almost distracting. But obviously that's not for you to enforce. It's just, yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
it's awkward. So anyhow,
Absolutely.
and a million he said something about we can use labor force survey data to do this, but only if you're in a census metropolitan area. So that doesn't help most of the boards.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely agree with all the comments. It's just, yeah. But yeah, thank you for all the comments, by the way, and all the questions. Insightful conversation for having. A little dunking on the ministry never hurts as well. But yeah. So moving on to NAICS. So as I said before, NAICS, I did it by CMA level, but of course, if you have other data sources that you use for your industry analysis, feel free to use those. Again, by total. So keep in mind that I did this for both the NOx and NAICS by the employee population and not by the total labor force or total population over 15 years plus. Keeping that in mind. But yeah. If there are no more questions for indicator 2, I will swiftly move
Sorry,
on.
Amy,
Yep.
there is another
Oh
question.
yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
Is this something that we can request from the ministry?
There's
Yeah,
definitely an avenue that we can look into and see if the ministry is able to give us extra data as it pertains to our labor market then. So yeah, I would say yes.
Yes, we did already ask the ministry for additional information on this. It is a waiting game, just very much similar to the census data that we are still currently waiting for. So just keeping something like that in mind when we are requesting for something for the ministry, it is a little bit of a tardy
Sure.
weight that we have. So just something to keep in mind there. And when it does come to the indicators and the new indicators, this is all the ministry's asking. So what we're doing as a local board from the Hamilton perspective, especially with us doing the data distribution on OneHub, we're just supplying this additional little conversation and training for you all. So just keeping that in mind.
Absolutely. Sandra, I see your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yes, just something quick on indicator 2 that we need to be careful when we go into the data. So when we're going into the data on OneHub and you want to start doing all the cross for the information, you have to make sure, I'm thinking what you're asking for is total employment, so the employed labor force part. So you're going to have to first cross, because if you just go on and just take out your geography area and then cross it by your occupation kind of things. Okay, yeah, so this is it here. So you would have to go into, take the labor force, the employed labor force first. Take that, sort that out first, and then get your analysis. Because otherwise, if you go into your occupation, take that, and you're thinking you've got the data without selecting that employed, you're going to get all the total labor force status data. So you got to make sure you're going to that part just that you're showing now. Make sure you do that step, because I didn't do that initially. I'm thinking these numbers aren't jiving, and that's because I didn't go into the labor force status stuff first, pick my employed. So that's good. I'm glad you showed that right there, because that's the exact just something that I just came up in thinking, oh, I forgot to do that, to make sure it compares.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because yes, I do have Beyond 2020 open. As Sandra said, it's very important to have your employment variable when looking at NOx and NAICS. So I'll do a quick example. So say that my geography is Ottawa. I'll just quickly go to the Ottawa Integrated Local Labor Market Planning Board, and then you can see the occupations here, and make sure that you're using the employed population and not in the labor force or total labor force status, but in the employed. Very important. And if you only want to see this part, you can just do show, and there you go. And similarly, if you're looking for only 1 digit or 2 digits, all you have to do is kind of like click and hold, and you can just hide whatever you want to hide, and you can kind of narrow it down to 1 digit, 2 digits, 3 digits, 4 digits, etc. So yes, very important. Yes, Paul, go ahead.
Not to make this more complicated than it needs to be. I am considering looking at a change in labor force over the two time periods because look at the ministry's note. They talk about the 2021 census was collected during a COVID period, very much affecting the number of people who are employed or were employed. So anyhow, don't anybody change what the ministry's asking, but if we ask who's in the labor force, we'd be capturing both people who are employed and unemployed during that period in May 2021 and COVID. So I'm throwing that out there for those of you who want to push it a little bit. In which case you can just go to the community profile data that is free and it's right there. So.
And Paul, I just wanted to add, so I worked for the census whenever it was being conducted at the time, and the way that they actually framed the questions, it captured it like over a year's time. So it was kind of like, in the last year, were you employed? What were you employed in? So it kind of looked at that aspect to try and, I guess, mitigate some of the
Perfect
disparity of it. Still not perfect, but I know that they did question-wise try and frame it in a way that it would capture as much correct information as they could, considering the pandemic.
Thanks, Samantha. That's a great point.
Yeah, of course, thank you. But yeah, so as Paul mentioned, there are, I believe they're called community profiles, as Paul said. So they're available for the census division level, CMA level, as well as, I believe, province level. And I don't think it's available for economic regions, but again, those tables are all available on StatsCan's website. They're for free, and there's a lot of different categories such as population, visible minority, income, all of that. So that's also available and free to use, as well as occupations data, of course. But yes, thank you for all the comments, all the questions, all the clarifications. Very helpful, and we're all in this together, trying to find the best data for our local region. So that being said, I'll move on to indicator 3 if there are no more outstanding questions. I don't think they are. Okay, no, we're good. Cool. So for indicator 3, this one's a bit more hefty. So we go back to our data sources. Indicator 3 asks us to look at, and I have the operating requirements open. So indicator 3 asks us to look at a total population 15 years and over and distribution by age group, gender, racialized, indigenous identity, and newcomers over the past 5 years. And for specifically for age groups, they asked us to look at age group categories by youth, so 15 to 24, for age 25 to 54, and older workers 55 plus, as well as newcomers, so individuals who immigrated within 5 years of the census, so 2016 to 2021. And so where we're going to source that data is from table 1A or I'm just showing. So table 1A or B, so kind of clarifying what A or B means in terms of the data table. So it basically just refers to the level of geography. So 1A will refer to the census divisions, whereas table 1B will refer to local board. So for my analysis and for this for today's training session, I'll be using primarily the local board geography. But again, feel free to use whichever geography best suits your analysis needs and for your local region as well. So first, looking at the variables that we'll need to pull. So we'll need age groups, gender, and the BIPOC variables, including, so these 3 variables for table 1A and table 2A or B. So this is for the immigrant population. And from this table, we'll need the period of immigration. And for the 2016 census, we'll use table 5, place of residence. And for this table, we'll need the age groups, sex, as well as visible minority, Aboriginal, and Francophone population variables. That being said, here. So for indicator 3, what I did was I kind of broke down the different categories that we need for our indicators by age characteristics, indigenous identity, and the racialized population, as well as newcomers. Again, there's multiple ways I can do your analysis, but for this training session, this is kind of what I did to make everything more streamlined and easier to follow. So first, looking at age characteristics, what I did was I took the data for 2021, and I broke it down by the total population for men as well as for women. And on here, I have it for the population 15 years and over, 15 to 24, 24 to 55, or 54 rather, and 55 and over. And I did the same for 2016, I also calculated the percent change. So one thing to keep in mind for age characteristics for this particular indicator is that for the data, it doesn't have the specific age category. So what I did was I copy and pasted over the data from the 2021 census here and 2016 census here, and then I calculated the tables or the age groups manually here. So I just summed up the age categories to get the correct age groups for the indicators, so 15 to 24, 25 to 54, and 55 plus, and similarly for 2016 as well. So keeping in mind that when you sum up subcategories of the census data, that will give you a close approximation to the true value, but it won't be exactly the value. So keeping that in mind as well. And moving on to the Indigenous Identity and Racialized Population table, I found the Indigenous population for 2021, 2016, again by total population, men as well as women. And I took the percent change as well. So for newcomers, what I did was, so if you look kind of at the operating requirements and what they asked for us for this indicator, it says newcomers over the past 5 years. However, it does not identify if it's by age groups, by gender, or by any of those other variables. So what I did was for my analysis, I took it for age groups, for all the detailed age groups. I found it for total immigrants, 2016 to 2021, so the newcomers. And I also did it for 2016 all the way up to 2021. As you know, having it only for total immigrants or for newcomers doesn't really give us a high-level overview or a detailed overview of what's going on in the for the newcomer or immigrant population in our local region. So having these extra years will kind of give us more detail, and I can pull from it whenever I need for my analysis. Yeah, this is for indicator 3. Again, welcome to take any questions, any comments, any other insights that you might have or might want to add to this conversation. If not, I'll move swiftly on to indicator 4. I'll give it a few seconds. Yep, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll have to look closer. I don't know if they're looking for a comparison of the BIPOC population, but if they are, we can't do that because we don't have BIPOC information in 2016.
I believe the racialized population, I think for 2021, they used a visible minority population. They did say from the ministry that we can compare these two. It was just a term change or definition change.
Well, the BIPOC was a new term in 21, so it's Black, Indigenous, and people of color. So, I mean, I know we can do Indigenous. I know we can do newcomers. What else? Anyhow, they're just letting people know there might be an issue making comparisons of BIPOC population. Okay.
Thank you.
And then I'm open. We don't have to discuss this now, but I would be happy to speak with people. How do we take this indicator and tie it into a story for our LLMP? Like, we're looking at the total population, not the labor force. Like, I'm looking at these indicators thinking, how do we tie it into actually a useful and actionable LLMP? So anyhow, I'm not asking for suggestions right now, but I'm open to discussing that with people in the future.
For sure, yeah, of course.
Thanks.
Amy, Brad had a question. I'm assuming this was for indicator 2 before, but we can cover it anyways. Are these tables you are discussing the new data from that the ministry has purchased?
Yeah, so if it's for indicator 2, this data for the NOx specifically, it's the new table that the ministry sent over and it's available on OneHub. For the rest of the indicators I've been primarily sourcing them from the 2021 census available on OneHub, as well as the 2016 census also available on OneHub. And I have the tables listed here.
Perfect. Brad, we see your hands up, so feel free to join the conversation.
Sorry. Yeah, I apologize. I'm multitasking here this morning.
No worries.
We all do. Well, yeah, my question, because if you saw my comment before, on indicator 2, the ministry specifically said, you know, they're going to be purchasing data relative to that indicator. So my question really was, is this the data that you were showing us? Is this the new data that the ministry has since indicated they would purchase and get to us?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so indicator 2, indicator 2.IBT on OneHub is the data that the ministry purchased and is now available to the local court. So yes.
Thank you, Brad. Heather has a question. What
Mhm.
data table have you used for Indigenous individuals?
So for Indigenous individuals, so I have it here. So let me go back and clear screen. So for table 3, I have it for, so it's table 1, A or B. So A or B, depending on your geography level. A, census division, B, local board area. And I use the BIPOC variable here for the 2021 census. And for table 5, so this is the 2016 census. Table 5, place of residence, I use the visual minority, Aboriginal, and Francophone population variable. So table 5 for 2016 and table 1, A or B for 2021. So hopefully that clears up the tables.
Awesome.
Yes, Gary, I see your hand up, and then Brad afterwards.
Thanks, Amy. Amy has, just looking at what we have right here. I know there's been an issue with regards to gathering information from Indigenous people through the province. Was there any, I just off the top of my head, is there any Indigenous information that's on that? I know the feds have been collecting some of it, but I'm not sure how extensive it would be.
I believe there's a lot of census data around the Indigenous population and Indigenous identity. I know that they collect information on Indigenous population by a lot of different variables or a lot of different variables. So there's Indigenous identity by, I believe, education, income, housing as well, I think is on StatsCan. So there's a lot of data, but to your specific question, that's my extent on Indigenous data for StatsCan specifically. So hopefully that answers your question, at least in some capacity.
Okay, so we really have to go through and actually search for that data within the information that's presented then, eh? Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of different variables for Indigenous identity will also depend on your geography level. So there might be a lot of data for the CMA or for the province, but there might not be a lot for, say, census division or census subdivision. So that's another thing to keep in mind as well. But yeah. I think Brad, you had your hand up after Gary.
Yeah, sorry. So just to further with regards to Paul's question around BIPOC, I mean, there's no request for BIPOC data in the indicator, so I'm not sure why we would even want to look at that. It's not even there.
It is requested, I believe.
Yeah. So for BIPOC,
no, I've got the indicator up in front of me. You're talking number 3, correct? So it's strictly age group, gender, racialized, Indigenous, newcomer over the past 5 years. I don't see a reference anywhere in there that speaks to BIPOC. So
BIPOC includes those
I'm not even going to go there with it because it's not there.
So for
BIPOC includes those groups, Brad.
So for BIPOC includes,
I get that, but what I'm saying is when you report this out, there's no request specific to just BIPOC data. Correct? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's be careful when you're, I think to Paul's point is it's hard to do comparators when it wasn't there before. So stick to what the ministry asked for in those terms that they're using.
So sorry, I have a question. So are you referring to like racialized versus BIPOC?
Or use the terminology that the ministry has put into the indicator. Okay. Whatever you grab for data, I'm just saying be careful because use the terminology that the ministry has asked for when you're writing your LLMP data and putting it in there. And I agree with Paul. We've been around a long time, eh, Paul? And really there needs to be a story behind it as well. So.
Yes, so I get what you're saying. So for the term, definitely don't use BIPOC as it's not requested, but within the BIPOC variable, there is total Indigenous identity as well as the total racialized population, which we use for comparisons for the 2016 census. But yes, thank you. In terms of terminology, yes, BIPOC is a new variable for the 2021 census, but it does include the other variables that we use in our analysis, such as Indigenous identity and racialized population. I believe in 2016 census, they use the visible minority population as the racialized population. But yeah.
Yeah, they've just updated their terms to be more inclusive and trauma informed. So essentially just the words that you're using, but essentially the population that they're still surveying is the same. So whether or not you want to call it BIPOC in your LMP or you want to call it visible minority, it's still going to be comparable data.
Yes, thank you, Samantha. Absolutely, absolutely. Going back to my Excel sheet. Are there any outstanding questions? Currently, I cannot see.
Paul, is your hand still raised?
Yeah, no, I haven't forgotten. I was actually just wanted to get back to Gary. I actually didn't hear specifically what you wanted, Gary, but I wanted to let you know there's a tremendous amount of free data on the Indigenous population. I think you're in Thunder Bay, so there is a tremendous amount of free data on the StatsCan website regarding the Indigenous population. So again, I didn't hear specifically what you were looking for, but I just wanted to mention that to you.
No, and you're right, but the problem that we have is a lot of the remote First Nations, that data has not been captured. And a lot of the communities actually, in fact, don't even want to supply it. I know there's a company out in the East Coast in Newfoundland that's been doing some of that stuff. So I know a lot of that information is not available, and if it is, they won't release it, nor will the feds release it.
Yeah. In that case, sorry, yeah, that does happen. Stats Canada does try to use Indigenous liaisons now to collect data. Whether that could happen in the future, but yeah, for now, it's not going to help you. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. If there are no more questions, we will swiftly move on to indicator 4. So for indicator 4, so we look here, it's for migration characteristics by age group. So this is available exactly on OneHub. It's under the migration data, and looking specifically for Ottawa, this is what it looks like as an indicator on OneHub. So I use table 6A, which has the very truncated table by age groups for migrants, out migrants, and net migrants. So all I really did was I just copy and pasted this table over and placed it on my indicator workbook here. Also keep in mind that this data is for 2016 to 2021, and for our labor market plan this year, we'll be using the 2017 to 2022 data, which is currently not out yet, but will be purchased in early January to February. So keeping that in mind. Yeah, yep, Paul, go ahead. Paul, go ahead. I'm not sure if you're muted or.
Sorry about that. We're not expecting the updated migration data until January or February because that's going to be an issue with delivery, I think. We might have to use the 16 to 21 data.
Yes, keep in mind, I believe it came out in time for last year, but yeah, keep in mind that it was a pretty tight schedule. So 2016 to 2021, I believe in operating requirements, I can pull it up. They asked for the latest year available. So
yeah.
I
thought it came out late summer, early fall, but it's changed over the years. So
yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's indicator 4, and then we'll move on to indicator 5, which is a bit of an interesting indicator. So we go to indicator 5, and then if we go back to the operating requirements, we see that indicator 5 asks us to look at the total labor force by highest education level over the past 5 years. And they have kind of specific requirements for us to look at educational attainment categories where it should be no certificate, diploma, or degree, secondary, high school diploma, or equivalent, and then trades, college, university. So I'll kind of go through first the data sources I used for 2016 and 2021, and also show a demonstration of how to find or how to kind of get these educational attainment categories on beyond 2020. So for data sources for indicator 5, so for 2021, again, I'll be using table 1A or B. And from this table, we're going to be needing the labor force status variable, highest certificate, diploma, or degree variable. And for 2016, I'll be using table 3, place of residence. And I'll be pulling variables, the variable highest certificate, diploma, or degree, and labor force status as well. So if I pull that up, I believe I have table 1 up already. Yep. And step. So for table 1, how I usually like to do it, and there's multiple ways that you can set up your table in Beyond 2020 to kind of make it more easier for you. But for me in particular, I'm going to go and find a board. So for me, I'll be using Ottawa. So Ottawa. And then I'll be pulling labor force status here, right at the bottom. And then highest level certificate, I'll replace school attendance for. There we go. So now that we have this table up, we go back to the operating requirements. It says that the educational categories should be no certificate. So what we'll do is we'll get rid of this one, which is the total population for this table. We're just going to do hide. No certificate will leave. And I'm also going to drag this out so easier. There we go. And next, operating requirements says that we need secondary high school diploma or equivalent. So we'll get that or got that. So this one, post-secondary is one we don't need, so we'll get rid of or hide. Hide these two as well. And next, we should have apprenticeship or trades, college. So if we look here, apprenticeship or trades here, and get rid of these two. And college here. And it's quite interesting that for university, they asked us to combine both, combine below bachelor and above bachelor, or bachelor above, sorry. So what we're going to do for this one, go back to our IBT file, is get rid of this one, hide bachelor's degree, we also hide. So we're left with these two. So university certificate or diploma below bachelor level and university certificate or diploma above bachelor level. And these three we don't need either, so I'm just going to hide them as well. So now if you look here, we have all the educational categories that the ministry asked us to look at, as well as by labor force status. So total labor force, in the labor force, employed, part-time, full-time, unemployed, and not in the labor force. So basically what I did was for indicator 5 was that I copy and pasted a table over, and then I also copy and pasted a university below and above, since they asked us to combine these two to get university. So we can see here for 2021, I have it for all the variables that we need, and for 2016 as well. And for the university category, all I did was just add these two up here to get the university level category. Pretty simple, pretty basic, but again, feel free to do this analysis where it best suits your analysis or your local region or your data needs. I also did it by percent change as well. But yeah, let me know if there are any questions for indicator 5, any clarifications, or any comments as well.
No questions in the chat room, Amy.
Sounds good. I see no hands popping up, so we'll move on to indicator 6. So for indicator 6, this one is highly individual to your local board area. So for indicator 6, it asks us to find the top 25 occupations by 4-digit NAICS, by number of regional job postings, and corresponding wages. So basically, this will depend on your local region. So for us at Workforce Planning Hamilton, we use our job board from data tools to collect our job postings data, which in turn we turn into job demand data and analysis. So I know a lot of local boards also use vicinity jobs, like CAS. I believe there's also other sources that you can source from, such as the Job Outlook from the Job Bank of Canada, as well as StatsCan has a good data table, which is from their job vacancy and wage survey, which looks at job vacancies, payroll employees, wages by, I believe, quarterly wages. So a lot of different data sources, but again, this will be highly individual to your local board area. And that is that's indicator 6. Yes, Brett, I see your hand. Please go ahead.
Or just for those of us that run the job tools out of Workforce Windsor Essex, you can use, that's another tool that you could be using, because the ministry has given us the okay to use the data from that for this indicator.
Another great source for sure. If there are no more questions for indicator 6, I will move swiftly on to indicator 7. So for indicator 7, it's quite an interesting indicator, similar to indicator 5. So I'll go to the operating requirements so you get a visualization. So for 7.1, it asks us to look at the number of tax filers by total income group over the past 5 years. And they asked us specifically to compare annual data from 2016 to 2021 to show the change. And they also asked us to group income groups by different income levels, so under 10K, 10K to 25K, so forth, so on. And it also has a note on how to determine the income groups. However, keep in mind that the data they have, so annual income estimates, T1 family file, this data table is only available for the CMA level. So to supplement this, you can use the 7.2 data source, which is from the 2021 census, and it has data for the census division levels and census subdivision levels, I believe, as well. For Ottawa, I use 7.2, and it's really not that interesting. Has income stats, so total income, marketing income, employment income, and I took the median amount. But again, these operating requirements are only only the bare minimum that you can include your analysis. Again, you can always beef up your analysis with local insights, other income statistics, so on and so forth. But other than that, I believe this includes all the indicators I went through. And that being said, are there any questions, comments? We can have a general discussion. Yeah. Feel free to jump in, raise your hand. Yeah, Paul, I see your hand. Go ahead.
I can't stay quiet. Indicator 7 is ridiculous. Like, we're looking at the income of tax filers, not the employment income of tax filers, the income. So that includes everything from dividends to child tax benefits to investment income. It's just so hard to tie it to a local labor market plan. So anyhow, I think most of you are aware of this. I'm just saying it out loud. Or 7.2, the median income. That's the median total income. You know, some of our communities don't even have 60% of the population working. So we're, anyhow, it's a tough indicator to kind of tie back to reality. So we're trying to jump through that particular hoop, but there's a lot of good income data out there about the labor force and employed people, income by occupation, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to say that thing. So
for sure.
It's not a good indicator.
Yeah, definitely a difficult one to work around or work with. So yeah, feel free to jump right in, raise your hand, put your question in the chat. Brad, I see your hand up. Please go ahead.
Paul knows me well. I'm going to jump right on this one because I agree 100% with Paul. But I mean, one of the solutions that I have is like dealing with EO data. And the ministry knows me really well around this because I put it out there every year. I put a writer, I put a definition, I put a describer in there. It basically says this data is crap. I mean, read between the lines of how I politely put it, but it's the same thing, you know, with any of these indicators. Paul's reference to the story, right? How does this tie? And I think when we look at indicators like this, there's absolutely no reason why we can't put a defining statement around things like Paul's raised. It's the ministry asking us to put it there, but we're the labor market experts. And if we can't see a true tie to how this can be utilized for labor market analysis and workforce development, put some polite wordings around that indicator, that this indicator includes blah, 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 and doesn't truly reflect employment income. You know, you're meeting the ministry, what they're requesting us to put in it, but at the same point in time, you're also providing something back to your community so they can take that away and understand it themselves. Just my 2 cents worth.
For sure, for sure. Sandra, I see your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yes, just in concurrence with Brad and Paul, that's what we tie everything back to too. We do the things for the ministry because it's asked, and sometimes it's better forget the fight with them that it may not either make sense or we can't tell the story about it. But what we do in our reports, we add other tables, we add other analysis, we add other tables that we think make sense and will help tell the story. My sort of question is who sits on the ministry group that decides what indicators should be used? Are there any people who actually do these LLMP reports? Who actually determines these indicators? Just curious.
That's a great question, which
Don't
I
know,
unfortunately do
Sandra.
not
Yeah.
know the answer to.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I don't think we all know that question. I think when we get these notifications, it just comes from the general email blast, and then we kind of just have to abide by the rules that are now indicated for the LLMP. But unfortunately, we don't have a name specifically that we can always go back to. But always reaching out to your advisor is always the best way to kind of get that information.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I think that's all we do. We do those because we need to be done. We're under the gun now because we're all working diligently into our LLMP reports. We got a lot of things coming at us right now, so we can't fight the fight that way. So we'll put them in just because they're required, but
Exactly.
knowing that they may not. I like Paul's how he describes it. It doesn't tell this story. It doesn't tell a good story that we can actually action things to, or do some planning with. So I guess that's we do the best we can with what we
All we
have.
can do. That's all we can do,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sandra.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't put my hand up. I'm just gonna add, the ministry does point out that this is the bare minimum. So to Sandy's point and Brad's point, yeah, we can add in what we need to add in. So.
Amazing. Any other questions?
Oh,
Sonia?
Sonia, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I had a question about indicator 5, the education one. I'm new to this, so with the university one, it looked like you were combining below bachelor and above bachelor, but not including bachelor. Did I misunderstand that?
So here, if you look at the operating requirements, indicator 5. So for universities, say to combine below and above bachelors. However, they did not say to combine just
It looked to me like maybe it was just missing a comma. So combine below bachelor and bachelor or above.
maybe. Let me look at a term.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right, Sonia. Good catch.
Yeah, good catch then. If it's so, I guess in that case you would combine and do shoal. So this and this, I believe then. So yeah, if that's the case, then combine 3 into the 2. But yeah, good catch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, insights?
Looks like we don't have any more questions, Amy.
So I guess that concludes the training session for today. Thank you everyone for coming with your amazing insights and your questions. And what time is it right now?
It is 11:02.
Well, with that being said, I guess you guys get back 28 minutes of your time, so feel free to use that as you wish. But yeah, thank you for coming to our training session today. Thank you for all the insightful comments, questions, as well as clarifications. All in this together, trying to just do our work and get the best data out for our local region. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Amy, as well for doing this. This is truly amazing.
Thank you.
Great job. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Like Amy said, we're all in this together, so feel free to ask questions as we go through this. Bye.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.